cherish all the time you spend, you tuned in to. It's time again to cherish all the time you spend, you tuned in to. It's the number one podcast. The topics of discussion when we broadcast. So all them artificial man jokes, we do it natural from the concrete to a public standpoint. Real, wherever you're from, life is coexistence, but to know the real, you just gotta listen. Wherever you're from, life is coexistence, but to know the real.
What's up, everybody, and welcome to the 52 Scott Podcast. I'm your host, K Money, and in the building with me, my co-host Slash, Freddie G, and Comedian 96. Collectively, we are the Mind of Men. You can find us on X, formerly known as Twitter, at 52 Scott Podcast, Instagram and Facebook, the 52 Scott Podcast, and if you're on YouTube, don't forget to like and or subscribe. Welcome, fellas, to another True Tuesday episode. Today, man, I wanted to talk about this viral video that I saw a couple of weeks ago, and it never seems to amaze me some of the things that, is going on in this world that, you wouldn't believe is actually occurring, but, it is. And if I think we didn't have cameras like we do nowadays, a lot of the shit that we're talking about, we probably wouldn't even believe. But, man, I saw a video, and I'm sure you guys probably have seen it, if not have heard about it. And this happened in our own city, Houston. There was a funeral home, Richardson Mortuary, which was located again here in Houston, Texas, on the southwest side of H-Town, to be exact, off of Brookfield Drive. And it was discovered that they were exposing bodies without any air conditioning. The mortuary basically was not meeting building codes, and health conditions and safety conditions were all being violated. And I think had this a patron, somebody that was bringing business to this mortuary, had not brought this to light, I think they probably would still be getting away with this bullshit. Now, the video basically was showing how they were walking around the mortuary, man, and it looked like they were doing some remodeling or something on that sort, but you actually would see dead bodies, some just sitting there, some were wrapped in plastic, some were in coffins, and I saw one that looked like, I don't know if you guys remember the ride Scott Screamer, but it looked like he was getting on the ride Skyscraper.
Yeah,
I
saw that.
So you say they were walking around?
Yeah, it was like I say,
somebody was filming.
It was a guy filming him because his mother's funeral just happened to be the next day, so he was there checking on the body.
So family members
of someone that
walking around.
Yes, sir.
And not only was that family members, because I saw a video, and like you say, they were doing some remodeling. There was a whole construction crew outside. The doors was wide open, and the construction crew walking back and forth past in front of the door. But my thing is, if you storing these bodies without refrigeration, shouldn't there be a stench, a smell?
Exactly. I would have thought that, either in the vicinity of this building,
right,
a strong stench would have been detected.
One body I did see, I saw, he was laying there and they had his nose stuffed, they had his ears stuffed. I guess those are the places where that
they probably injecting the
keep the odor from coming out. Yeah, so they stuffed the ears, their nose, and probably all body parts where they could possibly come out. So I think that's what they were doing to try to keep the smell come out. It still probably was seeping out.
Yeah, but the bodies was, man, some of them didn't have on no clothes, and I saw, like you say, it was one kind of slumped over, like he was on the table, and it was half a table, and he was damn near up against the wall.
God. They say flies were flying around. It was just totally unsatisfactory, man.
Yeah, I heard one family member said that her grandmother or her mother was sweating. Now, I found that an interesting choice of words that she used by saying sweating. Really? When you are dead and your body's starting to decompose, it starts to become a little liquefied.
Right, and that's
so to her, in her mind,
she
said sweating
because the AC wasn't on. That's probably why she, stressing the fact that there was no air conditioning. I thought that was strange too, Freddie G. To be honest with you, when I heard that, because I was wondering, how could that be? But you just explained, like you say, when doing decomposition, your body becomes more liquefied the longer it goes, I guess. That's crazy.
In overheated conditions, if it ain't no AC,
Thing is, how long were those bodies like that?
Well, it didn't mention it, but since that video has gone around, the mortuary has been issued a cease and desist letter, which I feel the owner should have. Well, let me back up. Prior to this video going around, and actually this also made the news because one of the employees at the mortuary ended up assaulting one of the patrons by stabbing them.
Right.
So it actually made the news from the stabbing, but they claimed that it was self-defense. Now, I myself, if I was going to check on my parents, anybody that was allegedly at this funeral home, and I came to see the conditions that they had it in, right. I think I probably would have went left too. You know what I'm saying?
Of course, and I think the thing here is the mortuary got caught with their pants down.
Basically did.
Because they had, I'm guessing because of having commercial workers doing construction outside, it caused them to have those doors open for them to bring in materials back and forth or whatever. I don't think they expected that guy to come up there that day to view his family member.
From my understanding, some of those bodies were in there for well over 20, 30 days or something like that.
Well, I'm not sure if the young lady you mentioned about with the grandmother, I know her grandmother had been there a minute.
Yeah. Now, here's the thing. They roughly found about 10 bodies, right?
Yeah.
Now, check this out. Think about the last person that was inquiring the services for them to take care of their loved ones, right? You have to walk in there.
Right.
That stench
it's gonna be
from the other 9 bodies.
It's there.
Yeah,
would be there.
Yeah.
Wouldn't that alarm go off in your head?
Yeah.
It stinks up in
It's
here.
a trigger.
Here's my
because
thought.
you got to do business.
Here's my thought. They were probably the cheapest they could find, and they went with it.
Well,
That's what I'm thinking. Because if anybody walked in there and smelled that and in that condition,
I think I would have automatically turned around, bro.
You'd have turned around. My thought is they did something over the phone.
But I can see that.
Go ahead and pay. They paid them over the phone because it was the best that they could find.
Inexpensive. I can see that.
And then when they get there, it's too late. You know already paid.
So check this out. I don't know if any one of y'all have ever had to be responsible for someone's burial.
Yes, yes.
Well,
I was just
I've had to be responsible for a couple of family members' burial, right? So all the way down to going to take the clothes, and once they prep the body and do what they need to do, I get the first view.
Right.
To make sure it's to your satisfaction.
Straight. So for the people who were there, let's say over 2 weeks.
Why?
Let's say over 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Those family members had to come
and
to at least view the body to prepare for the funeral.
Exactly.
So now, if your family member was there over 2 weeks, hypothetical, 2 weeks, shouldn't you be thinking in your head, well, we should be having this funeral soon. We should be getting ready to do this funeral soon.
Yeah, 2 weeks is pretty much.
But we didn't see their front office or the front area.
It didn't even matter what
That
the
doesn't matter.
like.
But hear what I'm going to say. What if they was doing some slick stuff, and they just say that person, hey, okay, I'm finna bury my son or daughter, mother or father this weekend. I need to come view the body. What if they pushed in the coffin that they bought, pushed it up to the front where they're not able to see what's going on in the back?
Okay.
And then let them view.
I can buy that.
Yeah.
But check this out, though. You still got to have the funeral.
Yeah.
True.
Unless it's closed casket.
You still got to have the funeral. And the persons that are in charge of when this funeral should happen should be the family member.
Exactly.
Once the family member talks to whether or not you're having the funeral at the funeral home or you're having it at a church, they should be like, okay, we want the funeral to take place a week from now, 2 weeks from now.
Then I got another question. Do y'all think they are the only funeral home that did this, especially during COVID?
All
people was passing away.
I'm gonna say this: they the only ones got
caught. Yeah, I feel like funeral homes do a lot of dirty shit. To be honest with you, and I know this all boils down to money also, because of them not wanting to turn down the services. And then again, like you said, Comedian 96, they probably offered a very inexpensive service.
Yep. Yeah.
So, they took advantage of it.
And here's the thing, what I think may be possible in this, why it's like that, and these family members are probably not there. I think because these mortuaries probably have to wait on the check to clear from the life insurance policies and all kind of stuff like that. So depending on the company where the policy comes from, they may not clear the money in time enough for the mortuary to have the body ready for the family, and that may throw some things off. But like you say, it's probably got something to do with money. I'm sure insurance somewhere in there got something to do with that.
Now, it was said that the owner of the funeral home was in the hospital and was dealing with some health conditions, which was the reason that the funeral home was in the.
He's recovering from a heart attack.
Oh, he was recovering from a heart attack.
Hell,
he had a heart attack when they busted there. Like, oh Lord, they
But well, now when the family was filming, the worker was he was communicating with the owner, and the owner was telling him to basically get him up out of there. Yeah. So he was aware of the conditions that his funeral home was in, but I'm trying to understand, the people that the story that I saw, this guy said that his mother's funeral was the very next day. So he had to have been at the funeral home within a week or two, prior to that day going up there. And I'm wondering what the conditions were at that time.
Right.
I'm sure it couldn't have been too different than what it was the day he was filming.
I can believe that too. It couldn't have been too much different.
I think it probably caught him off guard to be that bad. Because like we were mentioning earlier, there had to be some type of stench, whether it was strong or not.
It had to be
some type of stench.
There's no way that those bodies were in
the news reported that there was a stench.
They did.
So yeah, it
was a stench.
It had to have been.
And y'all know this is located. You guys familiar with the area?
Brookfield, right? Is that
right across from the Red Rooster?
Yeah, that's Hiram Clark.
Yeah, right across the street from the Red Rooster.
And you know what's bad about this whole thing, man, is the fact that it's our community that's doing this. You know what I mean? But and let's just look at the shoe on the other foot. If we talking about Caucasian facility a facility that puts Caucasian people there, they ain't got time for that, because when the lighter skin or white skin decomposes, it turns darker. So it's no way they can leave them bodies there like that. They have to be on top of their shit and keep it moving. I think what happened is, in our community, they realized that you got up to 2 weeks. You can plan a funeral service 2-3 weeks out, but the person can have been dead for a week already. So you got a month. And there's no, long as they kept refrigerated.
Right, keep the bodies frozen. Yeah. Well, I ain't going to say frozen, but, it should be in a...
Right, there's no decomposition
occurring.
Right, unless it's left out like this. And I think we just, as a culture, got comfortable with the time. And them being a business that makes money off of it, they probably really got comfortable, because they getting the money either way, whether they take care of the bodies or not. And that's where the problem lies. So I think the fix to where this doesn't happen goes back to people, that these owners and these people that's working. You got to go to work, do your job.
Slash, you own to something in regards to what you just said. Because you know what I thought about? I thought about how long it took James Brown family members to bury him.
How long it took?
Month.
That's what I'm saying. You got a whole. There's so much time in there.
A long time.
And the owners
fighting and arguing,
all kind of stuff. And all you got to do is keep the bodies frozen. So here's my question about why these bodies in the heat? Why is there no power?
Well, I think
was the power out?
I think that there was something dealing with the air conditioning.
Yeah, the air conditioning unit
at the funeral home. Something was wrong with the air conditioning.
Well, you know what they should have did? They should have called one of their friends in the business and say, "Hey, man, can I store these bodies?"
Exactly, I agree with you, Slash.
Do you know what I mean?
I totally agree.
It's so much. You could have went to the hospital and said, "Hey, do y'all have a few empty spaces where we can just keep these bodies for maybe a week or whatever?" Because they store them in refrigerators in the hospital. When the people die in the hospital, they got a place down there for them.
Yeah.
It's a lot they could have done.
I was looking to see how long it takes a body to decompose, and it says about 10 to 15 years. However, I'm sure that's once you bury them,
right?
You know, but in heat, if the body is not stored properly in continuous heat, I'm sure that could, it's gonna be a lot faster.
Yeah, that's much faster, man. Because when you think about, I've never seen what the inside of a body look like, but to me, when you say it's liquid form, the inside muscle tissue and stuff is like gel, if I'm not mistaken, kind of gelish to the touch.
They'll embalm it to preserve it, but like, man, like if you're out in the elements, your body will like turn your skin.
Yeah,
they ain't got nothing to do with your organs.
It's
your
the skin.
Start to kind of
now,
liquefy.
We've all seen like dead dogs, right? On the street. So
that smell alone.
Exactly. We know what that smell like. Now, my grandfather, and hopefully I don't get emotional, he had a heart attack, and his body wasn't found right away.
Yeah.
But my brother just happened to find him, and when he found him, his body had already decomposed, and it was pretty much maggots.
Yeah.
His body maggots pretty much had taken over and was just there's no way that they could have identified my grandfather other than him being where he was. You know what I'm saying? But just records or something. But just the thought of seeing a body just in maggot formation would have grossed me the fuck out. So I can imagine how the effect that it had on my brother.
Of course.
But the heat definitely would make decompose and occur a lot faster than so. In this situation, we were wondering how long they had been in this mortuary. I wonder if they had started the process and then stopped midway, or something.
It looked like it, because some of the bodies looked like they had already started prepping.
Right,
and
exactly.
they hadn't
I agree.
finished. Maybe they have another step or the second stage to do on the body, but the body was just laying on the thing, the table. Like half of it was done and half of it wasn't.
Yeah, there's no way they should have accepted these bodies if they wasn't going to be able to provide the services that was needed, regardless of if the money was available. You know what I'm saying?
Right. But my thing is, man, that's just not how a relative want to go and see their dead loved one, man. In that type of situation, there should be some sort of. I think it should be some sort of compensation for the families for dealing with that.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Because their plan was to bury their family member normally, and they can't do that now because now you got decomposing bodies. So my thing next would be, you shouldn't even be charging me for this
at all.
You should give me my money back.
Yeah, I agree. They definitely should compensate. I ain't gonna say reimbursement, but they should get a hell of a deal.
It should be some kind of compensation for that, man. Because here's the thing: I still got to go through with this. No matter what you done.
Other funeral homes came and took those bodies.
So that now they got to go through the process with
those
somebody
other
else.
Other funeral homes came and they
which is why it should be compensation from Richardson's mortuary or whatever it's called. Because now, what is it called?
Richardson Mortuary.
Richardson's mortuary. Because now I got to go through this same thing. Maybe not the same thing. Maybe it's better circumstances. But now I got to do something over here with these people, and I got to transfer money from here to here, because you're going to give me my money back. This funeral service is not finna do this for free.
Mm-hmm. Now what's disturbing is, while they were still above ground, they still had work to do. And it kind of makes me, I saw an incident before when I went to a funeral home. Now, this person had been buried for a month or so.
Right.
And went to go visit, and there's a big gaping hole enough for a person to crawl in and out of where they were buried.
Mm-hmm.
A hole. Like somebody actually crawled down inside. You could see the coffin through that big hole.
And a person crawled back out.
Yeah, and the hole was in their grave. So I'm like, y'all didn't care while they were here, while you still had to embalm them and prep them and stuff.
So you went down after.
Now, afterwards, you really not going to care. Because that makes me think, is the groundskeeper Are they doing their job?
Well,
because you're not doing their job. You're not doing your job by embalming and doing what they need to do, so we can't prepare them for burial.
They're not the two. They're two different things. One is a funeral home that you.
Well, this funeral home is actually
cemetery.
They have a cemetery too.
Okay.
So they have both. See what I'm saying? Yeah. So sort of like here in Houston, where
Paradise,
North. Like that. But it wasn't Paradise. This funeral home is on Westheimer. I'll tell you what it is. I ain't gonna say the name, but it's on Westheimer.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, and you go view the body, and it wasn't no hole when we buried him. Now 2 months later, there's a big hole, like somebody done crawled up out of there or went inside of there.
Well, so let me ask you, this funeral home and cemetery that you're speaking of, is it? If you're looking at it, and I know we're not supposed to judge. It
looks
by
beautiful.
Look.
It looks beautiful.
Would you say that it was a white establishment?
Or you would think it was, but it was black people in there. But you would think it's a white establishment looking at it.
Okay.
Well, the state of Texas sent a letter to Richardson's mortuary and basically saying that they have to. There are some expectations that they have to comply with in order to open back up. One of them is established. They must comply with text.occ.code 651.351, which I'm not sure what that is. They also must pass an inspection by the commission. They must provide a list of all names of licensed embalmers and funeral directors, past and present, that has been employed by the Richardson Mortuary from April of 2024 to present. They must submit a copy of all documented evidence for all descendants that their establishment had provided services for, to include but not limited to embalming, cremation, and funeral services between April of 2024 and present. And they also must provide a list of names of all descendants and their next of kin, and the name of the transport companies and establishments used to remove and store the remains between last April and present. So I think the state is definitely taking a good step on making sure that Richardson's mortuary doesn't do this anymore. But I hope that it also kind of opens eyes and makes them pay attention to other mortuaries or funeral homes that's out there, and maybe once or twice a year, funeral homes should be some type of inspection, to make sure that they're in compliance, because there's no way a family should be having to deal with this type of stuff at a time when they're mourning, grieving. You know what I'm saying? Grieving, exactly.
Going through. I mean, some of them scraping money to pay for services. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of crazy, man.
But again, like you said earlier, Slash, it's sad that it's unfortunately our people that's doing this to our people. But again, it's all behind money. But I appreciate y'all listening to this True Tuesday episode. Like I said, if you heard it here, you know it's true. And I appreciate it if y'all guys could go down and hit that like button and tune in next week for another True Tuesday episode. Peace out. This concludes another True Tuesday episode, and be sure you tune in tomorrow for another episode of Women Wednesday with Freddie G. Don't forget to follow us on X, formerly known as Twitter, at 52 Scott Podcast, Instagram and Facebook, the 52 Scott Podcast, and if you're on YouTube, don't forget to like and or subscribe. And to all my 52 Scott faithfuls, it may be new to you, but if you heard it here, then you know it's true.